So Floyd Mayweather already knew that Ryan Garcia wouldn't be able to beat Rolly Romero years ago. He talked about that. If you're a real boxing fan, you probably already know this, but back in the day when both Rolly and Ryan were still making that transition from the amateurs to the pros, their early pro years, they were kind of closely associated because they were both in the Mayweather gym. Both guys were, having their way with the Mayweather camp, that sparring that they were getting. They were all beating everybody up. Both Rolly and Ryan were beating up everybody in the Mayweather gym. That's what was happening back then. And, Floyd Mayweather, when he heard a lot of people questioning, Ryan Garcia because he was getting a lot of hype as he entered that professional boxing space, and everybody knew him because he was popular on social media and whatnot. He was really growing in terms of, being a known individual and, being that superstar. But Floyd was kind of, how Floyd is. He's like, you can't beat the people I know, though, right? So he brought up Rolly and said that, if he could beat Rolly, he'll give him like $200,000. But until then, he doesn't want to hear about him. And this is a fight that Ryan Garcia was talking about. His name was involved with Rolly's name for a long time. A lot of boxing fans know that. But Ryan Garcia in that sparring, the footage, obviously it was just a clip, but you could clearly see in that sparring footage that Rolly cracks Ryan Garcia and hurts him, even with the headgear, even with, the heavier gloves. And in this fight, it was almost like Ryan Garcia saw glimpses of that. And the same way that Ryan Garcia traumatized Devin Haney, I think Rolly also gave Ryan Garcia a sense of trauma back, years ago when they did spar. When Rolly was able to land that big left hook, Ryan got hit with that same hard shot. So I feel like the same way that Devin was traumatized by Ryan's left hook, Rolly traumatized Ryan. And that was evident because there's no other explanation as to why Ryan Garcia wouldn't, at least take a little bit of risk. Everybody's talking about how Ryan had low output. It was clear that his work rate wasn't nearly what it typically is. He looked like a very defensive fighter. He looked like a deer in the headlights, like he didn't know what to do, because at the end of the day, he felt the power. He felt the power when he was a kid and Rolly and Ryan sparred, and Ryan felt the power now. It was no different. So that's why you saw Ryan Garcia perform the way he did. You might have thought to yourself, why isn't Ryan throwing? Why isn't he trying to take more risks? Because he's seen this guy before. He's felt his power before. It wasn't like against Tank where he was like, I don't really believe in Tank's power. Let me see what's up. And you saw Ryan go straight at him. Tank was a smaller guy, so Ryan was like, this guy can't hurt me. He got overzealous, got caught. But with Rolly, he knew that Rolly was a physically strong guy. And once he started getting roughed up by Rolly, he probably thought, this is just like back in the day when at the Mayweather gym where, yeah, this guy was physically stronger than me. And I think in the fight, despite Ryan being the taller fighter, Rolly was the physically stronger guy. He made Ryan really feel his strength, his physical strength, in addition to the punching power. So those two things combined made Ryan Garcia not want to engage, not try to take any chances. His work rate was significantly lower than it would be against any other opponent, and he just didn't trust his skills. He didn't trust his own left hook. His left hook, his best weapon, was underutilized against a guy in Rolly Romero. He didn't want to exchange with Rolly Romero. Can you imagine that? Rolly was the guy that was supposed to be afraid of Ryan Garcia's left hook, but it turned out that Ryan was afraid of Rolly's throughout the whole fight. Ever since he got cracked in the second round by that Rolly left hook, Ryan said to himself, like, I don't want to get hit with that again. This is just like back in the sparring clip where I got cracked that other time. So it was apparent that Ryan Garcia has a form of trauma, or has a form of, a bad memory of when him and Rolly sparred, and that translated into the fight. That carried over years later, believe it or not, because there's no other explanation. Ryan got dropped by Tank, still went after him. Ryan gets dropped by Rolly, doesn't want to have anything to do with it. What's the difference? Rolly's a physically stronger guy. Ryan Garcia doesn't belong at 147. He says he can't make 140, but he was doing drugs and alcohol, throughout that whole training camp. So I think Ryan Garcia just needs to move down and weight. Go back to 140, force yourself to make the weight, eat a clean diet, no drugs, no alcohol, and, that's where you belong. You can't fight with the 147 pounders. Those are like actual grown men. Not that Ryan's not a strong individual physically, but these guys at 147, Devin and Ryan both don't belong at 147. Both of them, neither one of them really belongs at 147 because they they can't hang with them. I'm not even lying. You know, they're both talented guys, but they're not physically strong enough for guys at 147. Those guys are big. You're talking Stan Jonas, you're talking Boots Ennis, like those guys, Brian Norman, these guys are huge in comparison to Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. They're bigger and stronger. So despite their talent might be able to make up for some ground at 147, I think both of these guys realistically, they really belong at 140. I know they can't make the weight, but their physical builds and strength are really good for 140 and not, you know, 147. Everybody talks about how Devin Haney was a weight bully at 35. If you can make the weight, you can make the weight. And for Devin, even against Ramirez, and he got the win, he still looked like a small fighter. He looked like a weaker fighter to me and a more fragile fighter. I just don't know if Devin Haney's the same fighter either. He just didn't look like that confident and ultimately, you know, skillful fighter that he was prior to the Ryan Garcia fight. And there's multiple factors that play a role in that. That's, you know, trauma for both Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney affected them on that night. But Devin was able to get the win. I just don't think that Haney and Ryan Garcia rematch is as hot as it was prior to this quote-unquote mega card. But it is what it is. You know, sometimes you over promote and then the fight, you know, is over sold, and ultimately the actual performance is under delivered, and that's boxing for you. But let me know down below what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next Nabs boxing video. Peace.